Okay. So welcome everybody. We are here tonight for the Sacred Revolution of Spirit. And this is all about awakening the hidden to reclaim the forbidden. And we're going to talk about that term tonight. What does that even mean? So we're here, we're going to talk about all of this sacred hidden knowledge that we have lost. And so just to recap for those who may not have been present, just to recover for the last couple of weeks as we build upon this, this is a lost technology of the soul. And we're revealing lost mystery teachings. So technology of the soul actually means that it is a practical application of sacred and hidden knowledge for the purpose of developing and connecting to that most sacred, immortal, eternal part of our being human. Okay. And so, with this technology of the soul, we've been talking about the access point for these last couple of weeks. And the access point has to do with the mind, and it also has to do with the brain. The brain is not the same as the mind. We have the left brain, which is all analytical, and we have the right brain, all color, empathy. It's our intuition, our sensing and feeling. Then we have our heart, and we must have this connection between the mind and the heart, as well as our left brain and our right brain, to have this coherence of the brain. So we can settle our mind into a place where we can get to what I call this access point. And the access point is when we put the mind into service of the heart and the left brain into service of the right brain. We begin to activate ourselves in a way that we have not been able to. That thing that we seek, that desire to feel connected, to feel whole, to feel this intuition is all here. And this is what we're trying to access, is this most sacred point, this access point. And really what it is that this most sacred part here that we think is outside of ourselves, that is what I call the GodSpark. That is that undilute piece of the absolute. Okay, what does that even mean? So the undilute absolute, let's break this down a bit. So undilute, and I'm not using it as undiluted, past tense with a D. It is undilute, meaning eternal, present, ever. It is non-changing and eternal. So it's not as though it is past tense. It is though it is something eternal. And what it means is that it is not moderated. It is not weakened in any way, in any form, to have an entire piece of the entirety in one single piece, just as you would the whole. Okay? Undilute, unchanged. And the absolute, when this part is a little bit complicated, and I don't know if you guys are, can you guys see the whole screen, or is it part of it blocked?
I can see the whole screen.
Okay, very good. Okay. So what this actually means is that it is not qualified. It is not, again, almost repetitive, right? So it's almost double. It is not diminished in any way. It is total. Okay. So here we have undilute, not weakened, and here it is total. It is the absolute entirety, everything all together, but still in one micro piece. That in one microcosm, one minuscule piece, you contain the whole. Okay, it is viewed as existing independently and is not related to anything else. And as we go further down, almost towards the bottom, it is something that exists without being dependent on anything else. And then ultimately, it is the ultimate, the reality of God. So when we say the undilute absolute, it is that it is the entirety, all contained within that whole. Okay. So here is the GodSpark. This is what we are speaking of tonight. So when we get into all of this, in this point with the GodSpark, as we put all of these things into service, this is what we are discovering. Okay. Okay, so let's break it down. What does that even mean? Undilute absolute. When we are an eternal being. What we carry within ourselves is something so sacred. If were here with me last week, you were part of a spontaneously channeled guided meditation. If you were not there, it is being posted that you can actually follow through with that and see. What we are trying to discover is this piece, is that it is indeed, and it's not a piece of something, it's actually dual. It's two things, it's two parts, okay? So the undilute piece, it's that part of ourselves. It's our soul. It is that part. And then the absolute, so it's like a portal. When I had my NDE and I described that the entire thing went, I didn't travel through a tunnel. It was as though there was a pin prick of white light, in my case, that everything began to be consumed in white. And in that is actually the portal. That is the part that you go through. You don't travel outside of yourself as though, and it feels like it though, felt like I was hovering above the building until we go through this experience. But what you're really doing is following your own portal, your own portal. Imagine that. You're not going into something that exists outside of you, as if you're like being vacuumed up. Okay, we're not vacuumed up by the cosmos. You know, it feels that way, but what you're really doing is actually flowing into your own very essence, that you're actually arriving to your own very portal. So if you were with me last week and we talked about the doorway and you entered into the doorway, into that space, that's the portal. What is on the other side? The absolute. That was literally guiding you directly to that very piece that you carry inside. So if you haven't watched it, I deeply invite you to watch it. And for those of you who have, by show of hands, if you were here, participated in that, there's a couple of familiar faces. I don't know if you care to share any experience about it. There was someone on Friday that shared some of theirs, but it was profound. The very first thing that I discovered for that. So would anybody even care to share or have questions about that? Because this is so important. Yes, Katie, please do.
I've listened to it a couple of times, Maria, and I love it. I really though, when I've listened to it, I pass out. Like I go completely out, and I've slept for like a long time twice.
Good.
But
Okay.
when I'm very visual, and when you talked about the DNA
Mhm.
and the RNA, and then because I was trying to visualize it, and each time I kind of arc out about taking one side off and then stepping up the rungs. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure, sure, absolutely. Okay, so let me go ahead and find an image really quick so we can actually really break this down because imagery is so important. So for those of us who are here today, new to this, there was guided imagery in there about healing the DNA and as well as our RNA. So there was visualization in there about if we imagine the helix, okay? So let's look at this. Let me find an image really quick and we will post this up. So I'm going to go public domain. Google, here we go. And let me just share my screen real quick. Okay, so when we look at DNA, and we're going to look at images. Okay, and actually there showed structure. Okay, so here we go. This is a perfect image right here. So when we see that it's got like these two sides of it, notice that they are coiled together. Okay, so there are indeed two parts. Okay, two sides of it. So when the instruction was to unwind it, what we're actually doing is that in essence, it ends up looking like a ladder, okay? So when we are looking at this ladder with these two parts, as you unwind the DNA, it is these individual parts right here in between. So we separate one entire side of it. Sorry that there's so many ladders. And then what we're doing is installing these bars right here because these are the codes. So when we look at, again, the DNA, and notice here when we look at specifically, you know, the different components, these are all individuated codes. Now, instead of one side containing half the ladder and the other side containing half the ladder, what we did is just simply remove one side of it, if you will. And so all of these bars that are in the middle are like the stepping points. And so the instruction was to remove and unwind and insert these God particles, these God energy, what I call the God spark. That's like this God essence. Every single one of us has such divine coding within us. That which we think is junk DNA and junk RNA is not junk at all. These are things, let me stop my screen. These are things that were actually stopped. They were removed from us. They were suppressed from us. So imagine that we were at one time, okay, at the beginning of our creation. Now, what are we? We are a species on the planet that is created to become what I call spirit and soul fused beings. That is our evolutionary path. That is why we are here. This is what we were supposed to be all along. This is what was taken from us by the system of all of society. Everything in society today is in repression of this, so that you will not discover the essence of yourself, so that you will not activate all of the junk DNA and all of a sudden become this ignited being and fuse with God energy to create everything. Oof. Now, it's very, very specific that souls who are on this path, it is an evolutionary path, and that's why they call it ascension. It is a new agey term that is being thrown out there these days. And all it means is that we are trying to, within ourselves, get rid of the, pardon my language, but the shit in our head, okay? Get rid of all of the stuff that binds us, that holds us back, that keeps us in a dark space so that you will never become. It's risky business when we start this process because you go through a lot of healing. And when you're going through a lot of healing, there's a lot of pain. Healing looks like, oh, it's going to be bliss and everything's great and perfect. But even after my NDE, that I had even all of that experience, I didn't have full awareness of it immediately. I had to access it, just like I'm teaching you guys to. Go to your access point, go into the portal, because the greater part of yourself is already there. This is the thing that we are not told and not taught, that the greater, bigger part of your essence is already safe at home on the other side. Only a portion of your essence is here in your consciousness to have this experience. You're an eternal being waiting to go back to that undilute absolute. So, what are you? Okay, you are a soul. What is soul? Soul, okay? Soul is that part that we discover that is inside of ourselves. When you see a child, and if you're a parent, it's harder to see because you're in the thick of it, okay? If you're a grandparent, you can see it a little bit better because you're a little more at ease, you're not so stressed. You can sense and feel some kind of magic within a child, that your own ignition, your own light gets sparked. If you're around a child, a grandchild, or any child for that matter, and you see their purity, you see the eternity through their eyes. They hold something so incredible. Well, so do you. That was never lost. It's still there. The only difference is that we get born into mega shit, okay? We are born into experiences where that spark of you that is so divine, that as a soul has chosen to incarnate here for this very purpose to uplift the world. The brightest of lights often incarnate in the darkest of places to break up those most awful systems. If you have had a deep experience, as I have, growing up in our tumultuous experiences, that is also by design. It takes a powerful soul. Let me reiterate that. We feel weakened here from our experiences, but it takes a powerful soul to incarnate in those dark places, to endure those things, to be able, and I've got chills around me, I cannot explain. It feels like a whirlwind all around me. So I can feel the energy of this. Imagine that here we think of ourselves as the weakest, the most broken. But on the other side, before we even get here, you're a warrior class. That's why I call us wisdom warriors. If you are drawn to this content, if you are drawn to enlighten this within yourself, there is something within you that has called you to this because you feel it. You know it inside yourself. You can feel it with the core of your being. That no matter how broken we have become and the things that we have been put through and are still going through, perhaps potentially even today, these things that we go through is all part of the process because it's awakening that part inside of you. There is a portal of something so sacred and an energy that fuels you. That is you. You have connection with that. So every single thing in our system has been about going external, finding something outside. You know, when we are seekers, we're seeking something because, ooh, I'm missing something, right? We're seeking. If I'm seeking it, that means I don't have it. And so we start this journey. And I tell you that I save you decades of time because we will only discover that when you finally get there, you will finally realize, like, what do you mean I was there all along? What do you mean I had it all along? Dorothy, clicking her slippers, okay? What do you mean? They hide this stuff in plain sight, okay? But then they kind of give you those answers so that it will kind of calm those stirrings in your mind and so that you won't question things, but you still question because you feel it, because it has to be an experience, okay? So when we have these experiences going inside, and then even with the DNA and the RNA. So Katie, did that make sense for you? Sorry, I never come back and reflected back to check in with you to see if that made sense for you
Yeah,
and
it
for
did. And
everyone.
I
Okay.
had already kind of visualized it like that, but I didn't visualize that you were taking off and then putting back on.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So in that moment in your mind's eye, what we're doing is visualizing in your mind what it looks like. Are any of those what I call the steps? Okay. These are the encoding pieces. These are the light encodes. So in my mind's eye, I see them as these golden rods, that they're effervescent and sparkly. It is filled with the eternal life force energy is the way I visualize it in my mind. I have no words to even fully describe exactly what that looks like. The only other place that I have ever felt that energy was on the other side. And there is this pool, if you will, this most sacred life force energy. It is concentrated, pure energy, and it felt like a relieving acid bath. It felt like going in it and it was just burning away all the crap, all of the layers that we put upon ourselves. Okay. So you were born with this. You still have it. You haven't lost it. It's just been hidden. Okay. Hidden. So when we actually come to this awareness, we awaken. We're awakening. We feel something. So we are born with it. We feel all of this incredible experiences, and depending on our families of origin, it's either is maintained, sustained, and ignited, or it is repressed and kept held down. The majority of us are the second. Okay, so all of us are here to awaken and then to reclaim. Okay, so let's break that down. So awakening. When we feel that there's something more, you're seeking, you want something, you feel like there's this absence, there's something you're desiring. You feel perhaps that there's a brokenness inside and thinking that if I had this, I would be better. And we start oftentimes thinking of a material thing, a person, a place, a thing, an event, an experience, whatever it may be, thinking that's what's going to help us to feel better. And we seek it and seek it and we get it and still don't feel good. So we still keep going. And because the thing that we're looking for, when we finally get there, is here. So that last week was about let's start from here. Let's shave decades of pain and struggling and start where we must by understanding that Ooh, and I have a high pitched ring in my ear right now. So this is major. Okay. When we understand this, is that inside, beyond the pain, there's something else. We awaken to our soul inside. The soul is an individuated piece of the absolute. Okay. You are individuated. And what that means is that you are personal. You have personality. Okay. When you are personal, that means that you have personal preferences. You have likes and dislikes, wants, desires. You know, you have an infusion and an imprint of an essence upon you. It is your true essence. It is the core of your being. It is beyond all the stories. It's beyond all of the things. It's not the role. It's not your name. It's not what you do. It's not any of those things. It's not your degree. It's not any of that. It is beyond that. It is the core of your personality, the infusion of your plan here. Okay. What draws your attention? What calls to you? What is that passion that is being ignited inside? That is a clue and an indication of that piece inside of you. What you do with it, how you choose to use it in the world, that's up to you. Most of us think that our job is different than our purpose and our being. What we're trying to do in this new age is combine the two, that those are not indeed separate, that those two should be one and the same if we're lucky enough. And so that's most of what we're going through, is trying to create this infusion. How does what I do every day translate into really who I am? You know, rather than, oh, that's the thing that I do, and this is what I really want. The separation, the two parts of ourself, right? That is all about that third density. Third density energy is all about these two opposite sides. And so we have these two separate parts of ourself. We have an inner part of ourself, and then we have an outer part of ourself. We want these two parts to become one, become whole. Okay. So when we awaken that part inside of us, then we discover that there's something hidden. And this is where we're at right now. You're awakened, you're here, you're following, you're doing the parts, you're doing your work, you're doing the hard work. So by understanding this technology, because it is a technology, see, we flounder, we suffer, we try to all kinds of different things, and we go in this direction and try this modality, and we go in this direction and try this modality, and we try this religion and we come back to this, and all of these craziness is to come here, still to come here. If you start here, clarity, okay? So last week we talked about a breathing technique where we talked about up, our shoulders up, back and down, holding our bodies in better posture, having intentional breathing, okay? So tonight, another way to get to all of this awakening, and we'll do one real quick right now, is it's bilateral eye movements. So another way when you just need a quick break and literally to have a reset. So if we close our eyes and if you're comfortable to do so, if not, you can do this later. But it's really with eyes closed and with a deep, deep movement, putting your eyes all the way to the left and then all the way to the other side. So you're doing bilateral eye movements. So left, right. And so you're going to do this with intention while breathing, holding your posture. And you can even do this while putting your eyes up and then down. When you do this with intention slowly, you can literally say, I bring my left brain into service to my right brain. Okay. And I bring my mind into service to my heart. You're literally doing bilateral movements of the eyes. It actually does a brain reset. There's a lot of science behind it. And you can even search that for yourself if you'd like to continue and really understand about that. But it's another way to do this reset for ourselves. Another way is also, we mentioned this, I believe, last week, is about listening to binaural beats, binaural tones. And so using stereo headphones actually emits these two sounds. So it'll kind of sound like a woo, 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 woo. And it'll create this spatial effect in the brain. And the reason why that this is so important is because we're trying to calm the activity of the mind. When we are in high states of distress, we are not putting our mind into service at all. And when we are overactive, our left brain is overly engaged. That's the part that's analyzing, assessing, worrying, studying, judging, okay? And the right brain is over here feeling like crap because the left brain has it feeling that way, right? So our right brain is all about our feeling, okay? Intuition is the language of our soul. Intuition is the language of our soul. It's part of the manuscript that I'm writing, okay? Our language, we have a language of our soul, and it is personal. So when you are studying these things and going forward of discovering, how do I connect with my soul? How do I connect with my guides? I don't think I'm hearing it. I'm not hearing what these people are hearing. And the thing is that it sounds like our own voice. It is so hidden within. And those other voices are so loud that that voice is squelched. Okay, so let's talk about that for a second. As we're born and we go into our experiences, again, the majority of us feeling and experiencing the second and the latter, where we have all of this stuff that we have to undo, unlearn, and to come back to. If we are raising children or even have grandchildren, may we know the sacred responsibility that we have to honor that most sacred thing inside. They are our equal. They are our equal. Itty bitty body, grand soul. Okay? We have to honor them just as much as we want to be honored. If we want to create a whole generation and a new world of people that are honoring, compassionate, kind, considerate, generous. Okay, and if we go through these other lists, patient, loving, kind, joy, okay, all of these things. We must be able to teach them these things. In order to teach them these things, we have to discover these things back for ourselves. We have to reclaim them. Okay, we have to reclaim what is ours. This is all the stuff that has been taken. There was a technology. There was all of these ways in which to do this. And this is not what has been shown or taught, and I very rarely talk about this, is that there is a divine connection and a relationship with the Blessed Mother and with Jesus Christ. And this has nothing to do with religion. So let's just take those terms off the table for a second and know that I'm using them interchangeably with heart and mind, okay? Our access point that we're trying to get through to all of this, okay? So let me show this again, just once more, is that we're trying to discover that GodSpark within. And in order to get to that GodSpark within, all of these parts must be working in unison, okay? And so, give me a second. This particular thing, okay? So again, accessing all of these, being in balance, and it's not about being perfect. This has nothing to do with being perfect. Our lives are difficult. We are humans. This is about learning the tools and the skills in which to go through it, to transcend it, to not fall into it. So we overcome. Because when we're learning how to get rid of these things, then we begin to learn a new way of being. And when we learn this new way of being, that's not going to happen as much. Then you're going to begin to be in a flow state, okay? We want to get to that flow state where, yes, things are happening, but they're not going to take us down. That, yes, things do come up, but then we remind ourselves, go back inside. That, yes, we might have a problem that occurs because it being in the 5D doesn't mean like, oh, it's paradise and there's no problems ever. It just means that you feel good within. The word is aplomb, is to be unshakable, is to be so calm within yourself that no matter your circumstance, that when we are in this place, and so when the language and the clue that we're in this state is, I would be okay if only they would. That is the number one key that is pointing you back to yourself. Okay. So notice like the proverbial pointing the hands back, right? When one finger points forward, 3 point backwards. Okay, and that's really what it is. So instead of expecting everybody else to change or that to change outside of ourselves, when we get someplace inside of here, that automatically changes. I don't know how to explain it, but it does. When you go inside, the only place that you can, when you start here, again, that access point, tapping into that, you reclaim that part of yourself. You're not going to be shaken by these things. And then things will begin, and the hardest part as we're going through this transitional phases, you know, people and things and circumstances change, and we've got to be in a place of allowance of that to begin to really tap into that most pure part of ourself and to allow those things to happen. The most difficult thing is that we resist change. And we began to talk about that just briefly last week. And again, my ears ringing really high. So this must be really relevant for several that are here. So I'm going to take a moment and just take a pause and to just offer and allow an opportunity that if anybody has any questions about anything that we've talked about so far, and if there's any need of clarification, please, Gary.
Okay. Before I forget, where is the recording of last week's discussion?
Okay,
Is it on your site?
It is. It's going to be posted on my site, and it's actually being uploaded to the new podcast. So hopefully, it should be there. It's actually there now. Yeah, and so thank you so much for asking that. So these are like cumulative. So I thank you for being here, and and I appreciate that. So it was profound. It was really deep, and I was surprised.
Awesome. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I love to
It
hear
really
that.
was. Thank you.
Awesome. Cool.
That's one of the things that I've been discovering recently is that even in private sessions, is that there has been this spontaneous, like added, increased energy that oftentimes even to come through would actually even greater than myself, or where I would be definitely utilized as like the telephone, where me set aside, and then what's fascinating for me as those imagery and those things are happened, it's channeling. So it's like this major stream of pure consciousness of just fast flow, and I'm also watching, but there's all this imagery. So that's why Katie, I was able to describe like it and trying to use hand movements and how to describe it because it's all unfolding in my mind. A good not a television show, but a good movie that kind of shows that a couple of things actually. One of them is in the Da Vinci Code when he's trying to decrypt the cipher, and he sees like all of these holographic images in front. That's kind of what it feels like for myself.
Oh, wow.
Another one is the Queen's Gambit, where she imagines that she's playing chess on the screen. That's also another way.
Wow.
So our imagination is the way that we access all of these things. Now they've confiscated even the definition of now this is the most incredible thing. They confiscate our language by altering the definition so that when we use these words that you will not understand the power of its meaning. Okay? Imagination. How many people have said, gosh, that would be so cool, but I think I imagined it. I fake it. It's not real. It's fake, because I imagined it. It's imaginary. And here I am to say is that this is the world in which we must push ourselves into. When we get to this access point, when we're able to do these things, we open up space for images, for words, for sensations, for just a clear knowing, claircognizance, clear knowing. Clairsentience, you feel it in your body. Maybe there's an even, how many of you who listened had like a tingling sensation or feeling of floating as you listened to it? I see your head shaking, Diane. Yeah, so nodding. So there's sometimes we feel these physical sensations where like you feel floating or a tingling sensation because you're experiencing something really intensely. So oftentimes that's clairsentience, okay? Clairvoyance is all about imagery. Okay, I felt it earlier when you were talking. Okay, yes. So even in these moments, I have to say that in these present moments, as we're talking, that these are, we open up this space, what I am discovering is that there is an active and live transmission that happens in present time. So even though we're talking about these things, I sense and feel them and see them as though they are happening right here, right now. So last week when we did that whole group meditation and everybody was doing a healing, oh my gosh, I can't even begin to explain. So when I'm one-on-one with an individual, I can see and kind of visualize within their body. But then to be able to see an entire group being able to do that. And then even right now, as I'm speaking of it in this moment, I'm even seeing an entire other layer behind you all from sending out to the group. And then another layer because it's getting posted on YouTube. So like these transmissions are happening in real time, that these are being utilized for your service. That if you hear something within my voice, that if there's something that you feel within, that there's something actually happening right here, right now, in present time. If you will want it, allow it, ask for it. We are upgrading biologically. Our biology is upgrading. So in several of those videos that are there, we talked about the difference of the heart being on the left or in the center. Now, Gary, are you a doctor? No? A medical field? Why do I
No,
feel like medical
I'm in safety. I'm a safety professional. I don't know if that
safety?
means anything.
Um, hmm. Okay. Do you do like, are there like some protocols in there for like say CPR, like like life-saving procedures, training kind of stuff?
No, but I've had to take CPR.
Okay.
Nothing, but nothing. Um, the things I help my people, my customers do is be safe at work.
Okay.
Life saving, I don't know. I think it might be a stretch, but
Hmm.
really there are some things that they can do that can be dangerous. But it'd be a stretch to say that I'm part of the medical field. You know what I mean?
Okay. Well, it's just interesting. I am gonna, the way that it feels, okay, because it's
Mhm.
all the way it feels. And if this actually resonates with somebody else, please raise your hand also. Um, who else is a nurse? Somebody all of a sudden I feel, so who's like also medical nurse, like, mm, I feel like almost non-medical personal care. Who's caring for someone? Okay, Diane. Okay. Okay.
I
So
mean, I'm
this,
a counselor. I don't know if that's what you mean.
let's say that would even do. Oh, hold on, wait a minute. You cared for someone. You literally cared for them as they were going through a lot of their transitional stuff. They were going through medical things and you assisted them. Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So then that's what I'm seeing. And
Okay.
the part of it, and the reason why I feel that it comes up is, why does it come up? Hold on. Give me a second. Why did it come up? Medical. When we're learning about healing and about understanding these modalities, I actually do feel, Gary, that even still, you're serving. And I do want to say that I do see that there's potentials for tons of prevention. So you're actually doing really good with that. It even feels like I see the potential of even somebody like slipping and falling and like literally like it would be the devastation quality of life, would not like, so you're actually really serving well. Please just know that. I think that it comes up in a greater, bigger way. I do actually see like a female who looks like they would be working what looks like at first cafeteria or in a cafeteria setting, that literally they slip and fall, but she's older, and she literally, so like I see that there's some preventative measures that have already been put in place. Did you recently go into a cafeteria and actually like, or a food setting? I don't know. There's something about that.
No, not lately.
Okay.
No.
Ah, so if this hasn't come up yet, and I'd be curious to find out if this actually does come around. I see like a hospital, like the serving area where a hospital. So would you be a consultant for like a space such as that? I don't know what this is.
Not necessarily.
Okay,
No.
pay attention. And just to see if like there's some kind of potential out there. It just feels like I'm seeing what like looks like either a senior center, a serving cafeteria, like a school cafeteria kind of thing, where there's like cooks that are in there and they're serving on a line, but it
Hmm.
has that kind of feeling. Does this make sense for anybody else? at all? Serving cafeteria, serving in a kitchen, anything like that? Even like on a food line? No? Okay, I don't know what this is. So I'd be curious if anybody else actually who watches, I've discovered that too, that sometimes things come up, they're like, oh my gosh, I wasn't even able to be there. And it ended up being for them. So who knows? I'm going to let that go for the moment. The most important thing right now, Gary, is just know that it's serving. It feels like there's actually a lot, and even with ergonomics. So there's something about that. And then have you picked up golf also?
I used to play golf a long
You
time
used to.
ago, and what I was, you couldn't call golf. I mean, it was just a hacker and a duffer is what they say. I loved it. It's a great sport, but it's been a while since I've been on a golf course though.
Okay. It just feels like something coming up again, like the need for being outside, walking, doing something such as that. So that also brings up the need for all of us, you
Mhm.
know, of really being outside, using movement, taking in breath, and doing those things. And I really do feel like it comes up again to just, you need to enjoy yourself more. I feel like you're working on this big project as if you're building like a second business of some kind that's consuming a lot, and it feels like enjoy it a little bit more. Does that even make sense? What are you doing on the side that's going to be like, it looks like a side business kind of thing? Is it, so who's opening up a side business? Like something on the side, being able to assist. Mm, go
I'm
ahead.
doing I'm doing research actually.
Research for it.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
for there is a course that caught my eye about fixing guitars,
Ah,
tuning, setting them up, repair.
mm,
And I just saw this last night. I saw the video, the introductory video, and I love guitars. I have guitars. I don't play very well. I'm trying,
mm.
but you mentioned that guitar thing. I don't know if you remember that, Maria. A couple last time I was on, you said who here has guitars but they're not playing, and I said that's me. And you told me play your guitar. So
Wow.
so so there's that. But the other thing, and it's funny because um I have did some side gigs and it was just got it just wears you out.
Mhm,
Um, but this guitar business thing looks more fun to me,
mhm.
and it just caught my eye. I mean, I've been looking at this for probably about 6 months, and I
Wow.
clicked on the link and the emails are come, hey, come join us now and blah blah. Yesterday is when I actually pulled the trigger and joined, and I think the classes start within a month or something, but. It's
Excellent.
amazing if you see that.
Excellent. Excellent. See, feed your soul.
Hmm.
That's what we've got to do is we've got to feed our soul. We've got to follow those. So that's exactly what I'm speaking of, Gary. Thank you so much
Hmm.
for your willingness to be our example, is to
And,
follow those inclinations.
and yes, excuse me, I don't mean to interrupt, but
Mhm.
you mentioned being outside. I'm an avid bike rider. So on the
Ah,
weekends, I ride with my team, 30, 40,
mm,
50 miles. And it's just, I can't describe the joy I have with that. It's just so much fun being with my friends,
mm.
being outside, even if it's really hot or windy or nasty. It's just being out there. It's just a lot of fun. Make you feel like a kid. You mentioned that being childlike. It makes
Exactly.
me feel like a kid. Yeah.
Exactly. Yes, Katie.
I just want to say this is so interesting is Gary and Maria. My husband is a certified safety professional and he likes to cycle, and my son's a guitarist. And I just think that that's hilarious.
Not hilarious. Oh my God. Okay. I don't think I said it in this session. I think I've said it in almost every other one, but this one. Thank you so much, Katie. I always am fascinated because I say we never know how spirit is going to pull us together, that we are all inter and intra connected here. Okay. That we all have some kind of commonality between us and threads that span time. My brother
Amazing.
was a guitarist.
Ah,
Okay, my brother who passed, and he was an avid guitarist. He was a requintero.
oh,
Oof.
wow.
I will show you, Gary, some videos where of my brother. He was a requintero, and he also wanted to. He was studying music, and he actually had a guitar made. So yes, see all
That's
of
so
the
interesting.
connections, isn't it?
I know. Yeah, that's so
Mhm.
cool. And my husband was just saying today how much he loved to ride his bike. It fed his soul. That's just amazing to me.
Oh, I love it. I feel so honored. I feel like this giddy feeling inside of just wow. I feel so honored to be able to see how all of this just comes together, in one big picture. And we think that we have it all together, right? So I've been able to relax into these and be like, okay, whoever needs to show will show. Whatever needs to come through will come through. I have a general idea of what I want to talk about, and then it goes into this crazy, wonderful experiences of all of you here. So I thank you for that. So that's what we're trying to do. And this is about the access point, childlike, imagination, being playful, being out in nature. So accessing this GodSpark is when athletes, that's probably why you feel that, Gary, where it just feeds your soul. The same thing with playing guitar. So musicians, and athletes access this. They call it the zone, where we're really tapping into something. You lose a sense of self and track of time. You feel like just so infused in it, engaged, and it feels like just, it's the most delicious thing you could ever experience. It is a hunger that is never satisfied, but constantly nourishes you. Imagine that. It constantly nourishes and feeds you while still having this hunger within you. And that's the hunger that we're desiring. We want that. We want that sustenance, that nurturing. And everything that we're looking for is that. If we can start everything from there, that's what we're supposed to be. So we've talked about awakening, okay, where this is what it is. This is how we awaken. We get into all of these beautiful spaces in all of these multitude of ways. We don't have to stop and try these mudras and to do these meditations. If that works, continue. Please do so. It is a quality that is highly sought. But if you do other things, those are the things we need to get into. I even just do piddling chores around the house so I can get into that space within myself. Creativity, okay, awakening. So then that hidden peace within ourselves, that portal. This is what we're talking about, that piece of the absolute. So in the session last week was the introduction of it, the taking you there, the connecting with it, and then even going deeper, receiving a healing from it. So when we're able to start from there, and this is what I love, Katie, it's amazing that you fell asleep to it. It's beautiful that you did. I actually want to be able to carve it out just to maybe even record it separately so that it stands just as its own without having to go and find the place and have to play it and then it abruptly wakes you when it comes back out. So I will do that for everyone and I will work on that this coming week and put it out there because it's profound. Our ability to be able to heal. My own father, as the example, he had an esophagectomy. And about 2 months prior to his surgery, I did what's called a recorded healing script. So for all intents, and to disclose here that I am a certified medical support clinical hypnotherapist. And so I am fascinated by the power of the mind. And so a lot of it is all about guided imagery because again, it's our imagination that we access the unseen. You're bringing the unseen into the material. If you can visualize it in your mind, you are projecting it out into the world. We just have to resist the tendency to take it away from ourselves. We imagine these wonderful things and then we're like, but that'll never happen. You just cancel it all out. We have these great imaginings and these wonderful moments and you're like, it's taking too long. It's never going to happen. And you just built up all this momentum and they're like, okay, call it off. Call it off. There, she called it quits. Okay, let's stop now. And then they're just on hold. Okay, so we are the ones that are navigating this. We're the ones that are pushing this forward or stopping it. And then we are also either listening to others that are also standing in the way, that are also trying to oppress, suppress, repress. So you don't express. Okay, so it's a process. That's a tongue twister. Let's see if we can say that 10 times fast. Okay, so we awaken that hidden peace inside. Okay, so that we can reclaim that part of ourself, that which you think you're powerless, useless, worthless, not worthy, not feeling whole, not smart enough, not good enough, not healthy enough, not strong enough, not smart enough, not calm enough. you know, not pleasant enough, whatever the enoughs, enough with the enoughs. Okay? That's that part. That's the part that was piled upon us. That's how it became hidden. We took on the voices of others, and we now listen to those voices as though they are our own. If you hear a voice inside of yourself that is berating, who's talking? You don't want to be that. You don't want to be listening to that. If you had choice about what you want to be feeling and you want to feel good, then you by choice would not be listening to these horrible, awful thoughts. There's something else. With all of this that was placed upon us was the creation of another entity inside of us, and that is the ego part. Okay? That is the ego part. The ego part is not your pristine personality. It is the layers of all the stuff and the shit and the muck. Okay? It's the stuff that blocks you from hearing that voice. That is a development. It's created through our experience. But we hear that voice inside our mind and we take it on as though it's our own, but we're listening to it. It is talking. It is an entity of itself. It's the one, no, I can't do that. No, they're not going to like it. No, you better not say that. That's that voice. That's the part that was developed. Okay. So we're having to unwind and unbind and undo all of those things that created these beliefs that are not true. These darker energies, these darker forces, the demon and the angel on the shoulders, these influences, they do influence. It is real. It is a real energy that does affect us. It is there by design and purpose to suppress you and to catch your attention. So when we talk about the mind being different than the brain, the mind is the part that's always listening and observing. We're not even we're not even present with our mind. Our mind has been confiscated. It's like this unruly tantrum child that's in there thinking random scattered thoughts, misfirings, thinking of past events, thinking of the argument this morning, the thing I should have done, the task I didn't do, that the mind is now been overtaken, okay, by all of this other stuff when it needs to be put into service of observation. So observation is like a step backwards, okay? You take a step back and you're in a place of observation. So instead of being in it, okay? So think of like in a battlefield where the soldiers are on the field, but then there are those that are on the higher position to be able to see where everything's at. That's what we're trying to do. When you're in it and you're in the muck of it and you're just all in the craziness of your mind, you leave no capacity to be able to open up to other guidance, a calm state of self, inner voice, assuredness, something that will help you within. So if you're in these states and we're in this craziness, we got to come back to this other thing, okay? So we raise ourselves up into what I call the sacred observer. You take that step back where you're now in a place of observation and your life begins to shift. So instead of just having these sporadic moments of where you're trying to have meditation or trying to connect or do these things, that you literally, in everything that you do, your life will translate as what I call a living prayer, a living prayer, a living and breathing prayer that with all of your actions and your thoughts, your words and your deeds, that you're in a different place, honoring this most sacred thing. Oh, if we knew what we carried inside. So, for those of us who have difficulty, feeling like we are unlovable, or it's difficult to even think of like self-love, don't even think about that. Think about that you hold something that is so divine and so sacred that is beyond you. Connect to that. Love that part. You can love that part. Oh, it will love you. It will offer up this energy for you within you. It will be a connection inside that operates very differently. No longer are we seeking it from the outside of us, wanting something outside. We literally will have everything there and it'll open up the world. literally. It's a lot to get there. And when we're in situations and circumstances that hold us and bind us, they're there. And a lot of us are experiencing this as of late. So by show of hands, how many people are feeling like these added extra stressors that has come on just in the last perhaps week or 2 weeks that have really amplified? Yeah. So many of us are in that state because it's an urgency right now. We are in this urgent state because all of the things that held us down and bind us, the problems, the worries, the difficulties, those are of that I don't want to call it darker. Why darker? Why? Because when we think about it, it's of a lower vibration. The quality doesn't feel as good. And I'm not saying that we are not intended to be in this bliss state all the time. We're not. We are not going to be absolutely done 100% with problems. We're not. They are going to come up. We are this eternal spiraling. So when I say that we're hurling through space, we're not just like in a straight stream. You're literally spiraling, just like the helix, all the way through the universe with all of these experiences. Okay. So we can understand that we can relax a little bit, that our situations that seem so extreme and dire, that they do feel that way when we're in it. But when we're able to come up and step out of it on that mountain perspective, we can see the clarity. From this other perspective, when we're able to get to this place first, then we can be like in a place of development of trust, trusting the process of life. And it's hard for us when we've like life has not been kind. It's because it's been from this other energy. It's been from this harder energy of struggle, sacrifice, settling, all of those pieces. So as we awaken, we discover this hidden part within ourselves. We begin to reclaim it for ourselves by doing these activities, taking these actions, making these decisions, choosing ourselves, choosing what feels good. We must. Here's the thing is that we cannot sacrifice ourselves enough for another. We can't, because then you are not fulfilling your purpose. Then you take yourself off and you literally do not fulfill yourself. And every single one of us is here to learn how to develop that courage within ourselves to be able to pursue those things. When we're in a flow state, we can make those decisions easier and on the fly, where we're not having such a dichotomy and such a separation of where I am right now versus where I want to be. So as we make these moments and make these shifts, we can begin to bring ourselves closer to it so that we are in this place. So again, in those bilateral movements, as above, so below, and my left brain, right brain, as within, so without. So when you come inside here, come state, then you have all your power. Then you have full capacity. Every single thing that you want to be done with out there will begin to change because you've changed in here. We have no power out there and we suffer. Oh my gosh, because we make every attempt out there. So this is where we actually get the full control and the understanding of it. And so now I see you drinking some water and I see my water, pardon me. This is funny. Okay, as a matter of fact, everybody, if you've got some. This is another thing also is that we must increase our hydration because as I mentioned, we are going through not only a biological upgrade, but a neurological upgrade in the brain. So we are having these extra energies that are being sent and available to us. There are literally additional particles and neutrinos and other things that are being emitted from the sun. The sun, if you do any research, is actually like for the last year has gone through some extraordinary, massive upheavals and all of these different things. There used to be a consistent, set of storms that they would be able to discover. But as of late, there has been these extraordinary, massive experiences. They're coronal mass ejections unlike anything ever seen before. They're called X1 coronal mass ejections. And there has even been what they call cannibal coronal mass ejections. So if you can imagine an X1 being sent out and then an even bigger one behind it, even faster, catching up with it, consuming this first, and then even pursuing. All of this is happening because there is a system of information within the universe, and it is all through light. So when we have a very advanced technology right now, fiber optics is light, signals through light. It is literally a fiber, okay, that looks like a string, looks like a fishing cord, and information is streamed and it actually serves all of our computers. That is what that is. It is a technology that we utilize here on Earth, fiber optics, using light, technology, streaming information. Well, the universe has the most advanced streaming technology system that there is, and those are the system of the stars. Okay, so the Mayans, who were master timekeepers, understood the extent of which this technology is. They're not just little beautiful specks of balls of dirt and dust in the sky. They are literally channels of information that stream just like fiber optics through the universe. So through systems of light, information is provided. And in our energy system, solar system, our sun is a star. So this is an energy of stars, okay? The portal that you carry within yourself, this peace and the doorway of this absolute, undilute absolute, is also a portal, which is a micro black hole. We communicate, we converse, we travel in these ways. The very thing that you carry inside that is a portal is literally that place in which you actually will arrive on the other side. It is incredible and extraordinary and unbelievable to be able to explain fully exactly. The Schumann resonance of the Earth, she also, okay, every star, every planetary system also has this. Okay, but what makes you unique, what makes us as humans so unique, that not all creatures carry this portal, this peace. They don't. Now, carry soul. They carry soul, carry personality, absolutely. Yes. What you carry is this potentiality for fusion with spirit. That's a whole other essence. That's something entirely different. So spirit and soul are two different things. Soul is yourself, that pure essence, personality, peace. And then spirit is this undilute piece of the absolute that we're all trying to get to. When you get there, okay, and you never can find it when you seek outside. And so this will save you 50 years, 20 years, decades, because by the time we actually arrive, and most people never really do, because there's always been in this place of search. So no more searching. You are here, you have arrived. It's always been there. It's never been gone. You're not looking for something ever missing. It's always been there. All we're doing is uncovering it, okay? And then reclaiming it. So now let's talk about the word forbidden, okay? So what do you know is the definition of forbidden? Anybody? Anybody? There's no right or wrong. What do you think to know about it? It's not a test. Putting anybody on
I
the
mean,
spot.
I understand it to believe like something that is out of reach, not allowed,
Out of reach, not
untouchable.
allowed,
Yeah.
untouchable. Don't you dare even try. You're forbidden. You're
Mhm.
even blocked and barred from it, right? So let's break down that word. Forbid. Two different root words. For, meaning beforehand. To fore, okay? That we think about it ahead of time. For. And then to bid means when we bid something, our understanding of the word bid is to bring it into, we bid it into it. We are making a request. I bid for you to do this, okay? When we are submitting a bid, we're submitting a proposal, okay, a plan, okay, a bid. So when we are forbid, we are requesting that which we desire beforehand. Look how they took our definition. Forbidden. Don't you dare even think about what you want beforehand. It's forbidden. They changed the definition. If you even look at the root words themselves, forbid. May we learn how to forbid. Okay, reclaim that forbidden. Because yes, this is how we create. It is by accessing the access point, bringing our heart and our mind into unification, even our gut, okay? We haven't talked about that yet. That's next, okay? So we have first here's what I want to explain. The access point, the way to get here first is to calm the mind, do whatever we got to do. You do those binaural beats, listen to some music, do a meditation, go out for a walk, a run, do art, whatever it needs to. Calm the mind. When we calm the mind, then we're able to tap into emotion, our feeling, our sensations, awarenesses. When you're here, you're able to be in this plate of contemplation, asking, seeking, desiring, reaching. And as you reach, then you're going to be able to bring your mind, your heart up into service of the mind. Okay? The mind is spirit. The mind is spirit. The access to be able to get to the spirit is mind, because what has confiscated our thoughts? You will know where you are at by how you feel, soul, and then you will be able to, if I'm not feeling good, what am I thinking? What am I remembering? What am I doing? What has confiscated my mind? What has now occupied my mind that I no longer am able to feel and sense this wonder, a place of wonder, openness, a place of allowance and listening to something greater than us, that's typical complaining, right? So then we've got to be able to go beyond mindfulness. So mindfulness is being present, being aware of what you're doing. I'm eating in the moment. I'm enjoying what I'm eating. I'm chewing my food. This is good. Beyond that, you have to manage the mind, which means that you now have ability to control the quality and what you have up there. And everything that you experience is from here. Everything. I don't care where you are at in the world. You can be in the most beautiful of places, the most incredible scenery, with the love of your life, eating delicious food, and you could be pissed off in your head, a grumpy as heck, in a storm inside your mind because of something from the past or whatever. So it has nothing to do with your outer experience, although your outer experience will eventually begin to show you all the stuff where you are inside, right? Again, it's our mind. Because those who have been in the most horrific of places, the dungiest, the most abusive, the most darkest of places, have been able to transcend those places by utilizing their mind. Okay? We have such power within our mind, and we don't even know it, and we're not even aware. So we access it through imagination, doing all of these activities that do indeed feed our soul, that help to calm all of those things. And then we have to avoid all of the hooks. We have so much catastrophic thinking, so much thinking that may never even occur. And so we got to be very, very careful and pay close attention. And if these are things that are happening, it's a skill, it's a practice. You mean I'm still practicing. Are you kidding? I'm going to be practicing until the day that I cross. Just because I've had an NDE and I can talk about these things, I have to work it. Does not mean that automatically my life is good. That means that, oh no, that there are things that I am aware of. At least I have the tools and I'm using the tools and I'm sharing them. That's what the point of all of this is. So the forbidden, oh, yes, accessing the mind to be able to put into the world that which we want and bid for ourselves. It is not forbidden. May you reclaim it for yourself so that you may understand that that is what we're supposed to do. This is why our technology, our words, even our sacred scriptures have been altered, have been all changed. things eliminated, things even obscured deliberately. So all of this was a technology even all the way back in the day. And this actually originates from this divine feminine energy and an order. So on the planet, ages ago, there was a matriarchal system. So even those in Egyptian cultures, Mayan cultures, other cultures, even some current cultures, even in our beautiful pueblos of today in New Mexico, they are matriarchal. They are based on the divine feminine because of that divine wisdom. And that's what's all coming back into play right now. So it has nothing to do with gender. It has to do with the reunification of these two parts of God, and where we've lost one entirely, where we have absolute, okay? And then out of the absolute, in order for this to come into creation, they only talk about one thing. At first, there was the word, and the word became flesh, okay? So where did that, how could that have happened? Out of thin air, okay? There was the idea, the word, the seed, okay? So there's that part of God. And then there is the other. There is the womb, the universe in which it is to be created. It is the, I'm going to say two words. It is the primordial. Prime meaning first essence, mortorial meaning that it is made of matter, okay? Made to for so that it can make matter. Primordial, but it is also primordial. This and the essence of all creation. Okay, so we have, this is the two parts where we have God, the idea, the seed, and then we have the goddess, the womb, the creation, the universe. This is where the two must become whole. And when we have these, this is why the mind and the heart, the left brain, the right brain, okay? God, the idea, and then God, the womb. So when we understand these two parts, when we understand, oh my gosh, there's these two parts of ourselves. When we finally understand this, we come into wholeness. We're not separate anymore. And then when we can reclaim our ability to bid that which we want beforehand, you reclaim that forbidden, then your life will work differently. You'll be in a flow state. Things will begin to work and function differently, and it will begin to open up into a different experience. And we've got to be patient with ourselves because healing is messy business. It hurts and it's hard as it's happening. It has to come up so that it can come out. So we can't shove it down anymore. So know that as we're making these transitions, in order to be in that state, we have to have that willingness to finally let it go. And we don't have to keep exploring it. And this is why I love the work that you're doing, Diane, is that you're evolving into this great understanding of like transcending and transmuting it into a different way. So you're doing some really incredible work, in terms of helping and assisting others to be able to understand this. It even feels like you're developing some experiential activities that they can actually do. So have you done that already?
Yes, my approach is very experiential, very,
Okay.
I love doing experiential exercises to help people reflect. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I'm
Okay.
just, I'm blown away because you're using the word reclaim a lot, and that's been my theme for the last week.
Mm.
Like using it almost as an intention, just to
Oh, yes.
reclaim parts of myself.
Yes.
So when you say, every time you say that word, I just get goosebumps. So
Mm.
yeah,
Now I can understand why it resonates so deeply,
yeah.
because this is what it is. We are reclaiming these parts of ourselves.
Mhm.
And the thing is, the biggest lie is that we feel like it's been taken from us, that we've never had it and only the special ones do, and the rest of us suffer and suck. When it's like, ooh, all of us, you, April, you have one so beautiful within. Paint, keep painting. You got to paint, keep painting. Okay, you just got to take your easels outside. Go outside. I see water. I see sun. I see cats. Really? You do paint cats? You're sorry, you're muted.
Well, I have a cat, but I'm not painting cats. Actually, when I was very young, I was very entrenched in art, but that has not been a part of me for a long time. But
Paint,
yeah, definitely.
paint.
And very much into photography, and that is something I'm very passionate about as well. So yeah.
Photography. Oh, yes. Okay, now I can see why going outside, you do that already amateurly. So like I see you're already taking like pictures, but I see you getting into something and that's kind of muffled on the mic. But go ahead.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Um, I I wanted to go back what you were talking about with the medical aspect of things too. I currently, well, for 20 years, I was a house parent, so I took care of children in a group home. And a lot of these kids faced a lot of trauma. And one thing I thought about, one thing that we learned, it does go hand in hand with what you're talking about, the right brain and the left brain, is a lot of our kids, we called it living in their amygdala because they were always living in that fight or flight,
Mhm.
type of scenarios. And I totally changed that, changed my whole outlook on life, just
Yeah,
seeing that, kid of a child. And I currently, after 20 years, I had to leave that just because I was not seeking what I needed to be doing. I was taking on a lot of their pain, if that's
yeah,
if a way to say it. So I think now
absolutely.
yeah, but
Okay, thank you.
going back to the painting part, that's the creative part is what I've left behind. So I
Okay.
you on that. So definitely.
Very good. So yes, pick up the painting again. I feel that. So I'm glad that you mentioned that because yes, when we are in these fight, flight, freeze,
Hmm.
we always fragment. And that's the part that stays stuck in that. So as we are reclaiming our parts, Diane, so like we're literally going back to that fragmented part of ourselves. We stay in a time loop. So these are indications if we find ourselves in a place inside, remembering of something of the past, even if it's really recent and fresh and it keeps replaying itself over and over, that's how we know that we need to reclaim that part of ourself. And I will make a dedication for the next time that we gather for a very specific intent on actually how do we do that? How do we reclaim that part of ourself and go and retrieve those parts that are fragmented, stuck in those time loops? And thank you also for bringing that up, April, about yes, this is about also calming the mind and all of these things. So opening up that access point is really about calming the amygdala. When we are in these fight, flight, freeze, and all of these fragmenting, and it shunts the development of the brain. So just behind the prefrontal cortex, is right behind, our right here in the lobe. This is our higher functioning, our ability to analyze and assess in the higher ways. And that is oftentimes really stunted and even having lots of difficulty because of the amygdala. It also really does all kinds of so I want to talk about this because this is the science, the medical science behind the spiritual aspect of it. We get into a state of our mind begins corruption. The fear is infiltrated in it, and then through the amygdala, it begins to seep down. As it seeps down through these chemical processes, it affects our heart and it affects our gut. And so when these two different parts occur, then we begin to have these blockages, okay? And then we have all of these layers of suppression that are put upon us. And I have another manuscript that I'm working on is called The Deception of Perception, because all of these different layers are actually all about that we receive and perceive, and our brain begins to develop a filter of which we perceive the world from the moment of our arrival all the way through. And so our filters are very different, and we expect everybody else to be exactly like ours, but they're not. This is why language of the soul is personal. It will speak directly to you because it is for you, to you, by you, through you, given all your filters. So this is why going, and trying to understand, may we understand that no one, not one single individual, even brought up in the same household, even twins will never have that same experience because of the development of those perceptual layers. Okay. It is a filter that is created and it bypasses everything else. So as we're opening up to this, using imagination, going back to the original source, we bypass all of the layers that were put upon, and we go to the original place, go to this access point, understanding how we put all of this so that we can open up and utilize this technology. Okay. It isn't about your worth. It has nothing to do about a value statement that only the special few or those that have dedicated their whole lives. It is something that every single one of us must do, have to do. It's a must. That's why we're here. So I thank you guys for being here. And before we close the evening, is there any other question or for clarity that may have come up or anything else that you would like to ask? Yes, Diane.
So I'm still in a new process of learning everything that you're talking about. So when you talked about the level above mindfulness, like I know there's being present. So that level above that, would that be more feeling connected to yourself? Like, I guess understanding what that means. What does
Okay.
it mean to be that level above? Is it that connection to self?
It is part of that. And what it is that we become that observer, that we begin to really be very aware, hyper aware of our subtle sensations. We begin to sense and feel like, ooh, I'm beginning to not feel good. So and it's quicker. So we're not so disconnected from ourselves that by the time we get home, we're crashed and burned and don't know how we got there, that we're easily able to be in the present moment. So mindfulness is about bringing presence, okay? When we have presence, you're open and aware in that position of sacred observer. And then beyond that is the next level, which I call mind management. And so then we begin to take control. We get the reins back from this unruly thing that's happening up inside there. Half of us aren't even aware, not even a fraction of the day of what we've got up in there, because we're just going through and we're frazzled and we're chasing after ourselves. So instead, by bringing presence, we have opening for this greater. So then that's when we're able to be, we practice it beyond the mindfulness, where we can actually be like, I'm mindful that this does not feel good. Therefore, I will make a decision intentionally to change. Okay. So that's where like the cognitive behavior begins to come in to develop some additional stuff, the additional behavioral changes to make and apply these. So that's what we're trying to do. And when we cannot get there, cognitive behavioral changes from a different position does not work, because we're not in that position of being aware of what it is that we're trying to do or what's happening to ourselves. And so that next level is that mind management, which is really also infused with cognitive behavioral things.
Right.
But it's in taking off the terminology of it. It's more about having presence and taking control. I don't feel good right now. I'm going to stop what I'm doing. I don't like this situation. I'm going to change it. This thought that I'm thinking, forget it, And so then we do something actively to intentionally change it rather than just, this sucks. I don't feel good. And then we stay in the muck of it.
Yeah.
So I'm so thankful that you asked the question for that clarity.
Yeah, because it sounds like you're saying to silence the chatter, to acknowledge yourself, and then to take action in a different direction.
Correct.
Okay.
Absolutely. And all of that requires that we have that presence, because we're on autopilot. All of the systems of today, including our brain, has been created for autopilot efficiency. That way you wake up in the morning, you know your routine. So I challenge you to change something, change part of your routine, do something to alter it, to really change that automatic behaviors. It'll take us off that autopilot and it'll begin to activate these other parts of our brain. So as we listen to that other meditation, opening up the DNA, okay, I'll do another meditation where we can actually, that in part of that, as you listen to it, utilize part of it also into the unification of the mind for those mindfulness, to be able to understand, again, the control that we actually do have. Yeah. And it'll begin to work differently. And it is a practice. I'm still practicing. Yeah. So thank you. Thank you, everybody. Anything else that anybody had a question on of things we've talked about tonight? Katie.
Maria, and you may, if we keep, I'm sure in your teachings you'll get to this, but and maybe I'm the only one, but I don't think I'm the only one. I have physical symptoms, and especially lately, like just so heightened, just lots of physical symptoms. And maybe it's what you were talking about, and maybe you can elaborate it in another time. Because I know it can't be just me.
It's not just you. It is not just you. I have even been feeling it, even amplified, even myself this week. So I will definitely dedicate a lot of time into that, but just know that it's part of that biological change. Like we are upgrading on a human level, unlike anything that has ever occurred so quickly. So our biology is changing, our neurology is changing. And so we're upgrading to be able to really be in this new vibration. When I talked about it just briefly last week about this alteration of this micro splice of that landed us in this other reality, it quite literally is like the physics are different. So we're feeling all these physiological and biological, really discomforts. And so I I'm so happy to hear that you're listening to that meditation, and I would invite just keep listening, because even when I would, if I was working with a client and I would create a script for them, I would tell them, listen to it every single night for at least a minimum of 21 days. If you fall asleep to it, even better, because it all seeps into the subconscious mind and it'll actually begin to help and formulate. So the best way to help ourselves is even to fall asleep into this. And like you said, sleep for hours and then hopefully wake up in the morning or whenever we do come out in this new refreshed state. So there's changes that are happening, and so this is also one of the things we can help our body is imagining that soothing energy, like a soothing, healing balm. Like that just I sometimes I see it like a as if honey is being poured through me. So if you can imagine the thickness and the, how honey kind of just runs, that's somehow I feel like I pictured in my mind. And I feel like it goes through my whole body and just soothes and calms everything, also while simultaneously cleansing and just taking it all out. And so if that's imagery that can help, that's really another one that's very comforting.
Yeah, thank you so much. And
You're very, very welcome.
I know that what I'm experiencing is it's more like a nervous system disruption. I've had anxiety off and on my whole life, but this is so intense, and I'm not anxious in my mind. This is actually in my body.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this is really because of that biology, the upgrades, and all of these new information, all of these things that I was talking about. I barely talked about like how the information in the sun. So there is all of this new bombardment, and it literally is flowing through us. And there's all of these micro changes, because everything that's happening on our planet, like all of these greater scales, they're not separate. They like what happens on the greater, bigger scale all happens all the way down within. So the macro, bigger scale, all the way down into the micro. So a biological shift and change. And so we're feeling all these physical sensations, and we can help soothe ourselves in these ways that we've talked about, and then it can help with that.
Yeah,
No,
that's
you're not
helpful. And
alone.
I've been doing a little bit of salt to my hand, like you said, and water, lots of water.
Good, good, good. Yes,
Yeah.
good. So Celtic salt, because it helps to open this photonic exchange with the water cells and then bringing in hydration. So it's really going to help. So we inform ourselves and we give our bodies what it needs to help it. Okay.
Thank you so much, Maria.
You're very, very welcome. Thank you, Katie. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, April, Diane, Katie, Karen, and Gary. I thank you all so much for being here. So, so much. I appreciate you. And I look forward to hopefully seeing you again. May you guys have a wonderful, beautiful night.
You too.
All
Thanks,
right.
Maria.
Maria.
Bye,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you.
Bye. Y'all be safe.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.